As we all know, Charlie Kirk is one of the most prominent propaganda mouthpieces for the Trump administration, defending every decision they make, even when it's really stupid, like the whole tariff situation or the unlawful deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, which is the topic of today's video. Recently, Charlie posted a video of a campus debate where he spews a bunch of lies and half-truths and speculation about Kilmar Garcia to justify his abduction and imprisonment in the Salvadoran gulag known as CCOT. Charlie's main argument is based on Garcia's alleged MS-13 membership, but as you'll see, the evidence he provides is very shoddy. And later on, we'll talk about Garcia's immigration status and whether he was legally deported to El Salvador.
But I want you to explain this to me. What are these tattoos exactly? Is that not an MS-13 gang tattoo? That's marijuana M, smiley face S, cross 1, skull 3.
Okay.
That's MS-13. Number 2, what jersey did Kilmar Garcia wear on a routine basis, and what was the significance of it in the Maryland jurisdiction of gang territory? What gang wears Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls jerseys in the Maryland proper area?
Okay. Now to flip that on
MS-13, got it.
The first pieces of evidence Charlie points to are the infamous hand tattoos and the fact that Garcia wore Chicago Bulls attire. This is what is considered hard proof that Garcia is a member of MS-13 apparently. Well, when it comes to the tattoos, the Trump administration and of course their attack dog Charlie are simply playing an association game. Marijuana represents M, smiley face S, cross is allegedly one god, skull means 3 because of the 3 holes of the eyes and the mouth. The first 2 characters are possibly the most straightforward, but the cross and skull are more of a stretch, especially the skull because it has more than 3 holes. You know, the nose and ears, but hey, they're trying their hardest to make this work. I couldn't find anything definitive that a skull represents 3, but maybe I just didn't look hard enough. Anyway, all of this ignores something really simple about MS-13 tattoos. They don't hide their gang affiliation behind secret symbols. They're pretty obvious about it. They're proud to represent the fact that they're an MS-13. The point is, Garcia's tattoos are ambiguous regarding their connection to MS-13, especially in light of the fact that MS-13 members are not shy about their affiliation. Even the experts have weighed in and said that nothing about Garcia's tattoos signal MS-13 membership. Okay, but what about the Chicago Bulls connection? Charlie is making a completely unsubstantiated claim that being Hispanic and wearing a Bulls jersey in Maryland almost guarantees you're a member of MS-13. The problem with that is Chicago Bulls attire is very popular in Maryland, and even in states with large Hispanic populations like Texas and New Mexico. I guess they're all a part of MS-13, and that's all the proof you need. Alright, let's get into the more substantive claims that Charlie makes.
Citing information from a confidential informant alleging from his gang membership. The judge agreed and signed his deportation order. What is the issue here exactly?
A lot of people defending the Trump administration cite the claim that a confidential informant told a Maryland detective that Garcia was a member of MS-13. But there are a couple of problems with this. One is that the CI alleged Garcia was a member of the Westerns clique of MS-13, which operates in New York, but Garcia never actually lived there. As a side note, this is where the Chicago Bulls connection comes in. The Western clique in New York apparently wear Bulls jerseys, although Charlie lied earlier and said it was associated with Maryland cliques of MS-13. Either way, it's still not good evidence. The other is that the detective himself was completely unreliable. He ended up getting suspended shortly after arresting Garcia because he was involved in some nefarious shenanigans, and then he was criminally indicted and fired by the police department. So we probably shouldn't put too much stock in what that guy said.
He's not an American. He broke into this country, and he does not afford the same rights that Americans are. The judge said, "Sir, Mr. Garcia, you will be deported at any time for any reason back to any country. The only country I'm not allowing you to go be deported to was El Salvador." It's not that he was deported that it was wrong. It's not that he wasn't part of MS-13.
Well, the fact that he was deported was wrong. Well,
in
he's
2019,
in
in 2020, he had due process. The judge literally signed an order saying, at any time ICE can come and get you. This is your final warning, Mr. Garcia. They might come and scoop you up.
Yes, it's true that undocumented immigrants are not afforded all the same rights as American citizens. But of course, that is a straw man. Nobody is saying undocumented immigrants are entitled to all the rights of Americans. The question is, are they entitled to due process? And the answer is yes. So, was Garcia given due process? He was, at least before he was wrongfully deported to El Salvador. In October 2019, after being detained in multiple immigration hearings, Garcia was granted a withholding of removal order, which actually requires a higher burden of proof than asylum claims. He was granted this order because he feared persecution from the Barrios 18 gang. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, that's because he was in the rival gang MS-13. But in fact, the problem started when his mother's business was being extorted by Barrios 18, and soon the entire family was being threatened with violence. That seems like a valid reason to me to seek asylum in the United States. The withholding of removal order allowed Garcia to live and work in the United States legally. So although it was temporary, he did have legal status. And yes, he could be deported to another country, but he was specifically not to be returned to El Salvador, where he feared retribution from Barrios 18. Look, the Trump administration knew they fucked up by deporting Garcia to CICOT, and even admitted it later on. So they needed a post hoc justification for throwing him in the gulag, and they claimed that he was an MS-13 terrorist, despite no criminal record. And yes, they also focused on the stories of him physically abusing his wife, which is terrible. And that brings me to Charlie's last argument for why we should illegally deport people we don't like.
Because I have evidence of court documents that Kilmar Garcia beat his wife. Want me to read it? In 2021, Abrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez Tura, filed a protective order against him, alleging instances of physical abuse, including being punched repeatedly and scratched.
This is probably Charlie's most effective argument, because it's so emotionally appealing. I mean, how can you defend a wife beater? And look, I get it. I don't like defending this guy for that very reason, and I definitely don't condone his actions. But just because someone does something I don't like, that doesn't give me the right to do something illegal in retaliation, or justify something illegal after the fact. If someone punches me and runs away, I can't hunt the guy down and snuff him out. I have legal channels to remedy the situation. The point is, just because Garcia may have done some bad things doesn't mean we can trample on his rights. As Senator Chris Van Hollen said, I'm not vouching for the man, I'm vouching for his rights. Even Garcia's wife had this to say, I never imagined the lowest moment in our relationship would be weaponized to demonize my husband's character or used as a justification to violate his rights. Kilmar is a loving partner and father. Look, if you don't like immigrants, especially from Latin America, I probably won't convince you that Abrego Garcia was wrongfully deported, even though the evidence is clearly there. But if you care about the rule of law and Constitution, you should oppose the Trump administration's actions.